Good evening and welcome to the Durham District School Board Standing Committee meeting of Monday, June the 7th, 2021. I'd like to call this meeting to order and begin with the Land Acknowledgement. The Durham District School Board acknowledges that many Indigenous nations have long-standing relationships, both historic and modern, with the territories upon which our school board and schools are located. Today, the area is home to many Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We acknowledge that the Durham region forms a part of the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, the Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nation. It is on these ancestral and treaty lands that we teach, learn, and live. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Trustee Darlene Forbes, who is the trustee representative on the Durham District School Board Indigenous Education Advisory Circle. Trustee Forbes.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. So over the past week, we've all been reminded of the horrific impact the Canadian residential school system has had and continues to have on Indigenous peoples, students, families, and communities. For many members of Indigenous communities, this wasn't a reminder, but rather a reality that is lived every day. True reconciliation requires that we listen to Indigenous peoples and that we must consistently act to address and dismantle the ongoing legacies of colonialism, which continue to affect the rights of Indigenous peoples today. Recent events have underlined the urgency of prioritizing Indigenous inherent rights. There's a lot of work to do within education and within our district to identify, address, and eliminate anti-Indigenous racism, discrimination, and barriers to success. We know that each Indigenous student brings unique and individual gifts to their educational setting in schools, and it is our responsibility to respect, honor, and integrate these gifts into enriched learning experiences. We are committed to building positive and trusting relationships with Indigenous students and families, and upholding the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and fulfilling the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's 94 calls to action. I would like to ask everyone at the meeting and those watching at home to join us in a collective moment of silence to honor the 215 children who lost their lives at the Kamloops Residential School, and all those who have been lost as a result of the actions of the past and the present. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Forbes. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved as distributed. As there is no community presentation this evening, I would like to call on Trustee Scott Templeton to present the Parent Involvement Committee Annual Report. Trustee Templeton.
Hi, it's been an honor and a privilege to sit as the trustee representative on the Parent Involvement Committee. This committee really indulges in lots and lots of activities that get shared amongst many committees. And it's my privilege to introduce the chair of the committee, Valerie Estridge.
Thank you, Trustee Templeton. Good evening, everyone. I am pleased to be here with you tonight to share the annual Parent Involvement Committee report on behalf of the Durham District School Board's Parent Involvement Committee. As indicated on the annual report, PIC is made up of 17 members from across the district, including 1, our Trustee Templeton, 4 community members, 8 parents, 1 elementary and 1 secondary teacher, 1 elementary administrator, and 1 secondary administrator. The Parent Involvement Committee provides information and advice to help engage parents with the board and undertakes activities, parent engagement. Tonight, I will highlight the key initiatives PIC has supported this year, which includes Parent Reaching Out grants, Parent Engagement Series events, Parents as Partners Symposium, the new Welcome to Ddsb resource, Volunteer of Distinction, and Parent Engagement e-newsletters. Subcommittees were created to support the development and implementation of each initiative, and we work together to ensure sessions offered and resources created were responsive to parents and family needs, given the challenges we're presented throughout this COVID-19 pandemic. The Ministry of Education provided approximately $40,000 to support Parent Reaching Out grants in the DDSB, with a focus on collaboration between school committees, regions, and school committee councils. 24 projects were approved, which involved 66 school committees across the district and 3 affinity networks. With regards to the 2 parent engagement series previously referred to as regional SEC meetings that took place, the first was hosted by TEND Academy and focused on supporting families with strategies to stay healthy in a stressful world. Within the second parent engagement series event was hosted by keynote speaker B. Kwame, who spoke about anti-Black racism with parents, caregivers, educators, and provided practical tips on how to speak to children about anti-Black racism. This year's Parents as Partners Symposium was hosted by Dr. Vidal Rigisfort, who spoke to families about the importance of diversity and embracing and celebrating our identities as key to success. After hearing from parents that a one-stop shop type resource was needed to assist parents new to DDSB, the committee created a Welcome to DDSB Parent Guardian resource, which is an informative roadmap to the different resources and services available for parents, guardians in the district school board. This resource will be posted on the parent engagement page on the DDSB website. Each year, the PIC and DDSB recognize the valued work of volunteers at our Volunteer of Distinction. This year, a virtual recognition was held on November 16th, 2020 at the board meeting, where 131 volunteers were honored for their outstanding contributions within our elementary and secondary schools. The Parent Involvement Committee also created 3 e-newsletters, one in December, March, and June. Each newsletter included information, resources, and strategies for parents and guardians, particularly related to the navigating the pandemic. Our June newsletter will be shared in the coming weeks, and all are posted on the Ddsb Parent Engagement website. This has been a challenging year for parents and families, and we have been honored to be able to provide support and resources and engagement opportunities that have brought about parents together from across the district. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Trustee Templeton.
Thank you, Valerie. It's been a pleasure watching you run the parent involvement. It's been very well organized, and reaching out to many different organizations and parents establishes a great base for incoming and new students in our school. And I love the fact that we're going through the diversity and equity process, even with the Parent Involvement Committee, because it's a very strong committee that moves forward, and it is in touch with the SCCs and many different angles within the Durham District School Board. And just, I'd like to thank Superintendent Erin Elmhurst for her continued dedication to the Parent Involvement Committee. Erin, if you have anything to say, please chime in. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for you, Chair, just a huge thank you to Valerie and to the Parent Involvement Committee, as well as Trustee Templeton for their work this year. It has been an honor to work alongside all of you. Congrats.
Thank you. And Valerie, thank you so much. On behalf of the trustees, we appreciate your dedication to the involvement of parents in the community.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Trustee Edwards may have a question for you, Valerie.
Thank you. As I attended quite a few of the parent engagement series, and they were very well attended. And thank you so much for the whole committee of what they've done. But I'm just wondering, because we had such great attendance on these engagement series, do you see them continuing on next year?
I could defer this to Superintendent Erin Elmhurst, but I could also say yes. I see us progressing with them going forward, because I think it was very well supported, and parents were engaged and the communities were engaged, and so many people were benefited. So yes, I would say yes, but I would also defer to Superintendent Elmhurst, who would probably comment further on that. Thank you.
Superintendent Elmhurst.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Definitely, we've seen the benefits of all of the virtual opportunities for parents' engagement. Many of our programs were able to involve parents from across the district in one event, and we really saw the benefits of that. So really certainly hoping that some of that can continue into next year as we really look to pick to guide the content of each of the parent engagement series events that we host, and then ensuring that the platforms are accessible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further comments or questions for Valerie or for Scott, I'll move on then to Director Nora Marsh and the director's update for tonight.
Thank you, through you, Chair Thatcher. Happy to update trustees. With less than 3 weeks left in the school year, we certainly I think all feel disappointment in terms of the desire that we had to return to in-person learning. We recognize that remote learning is pressure-packed from the point of view that it's an entirely different form of teaching and learning in a virtual mode. We also recognize compounding the challenge is that many people are trying to work full-time from home while also giving children the needed support and attention that they need at home while they're engaging in the remote learning. And that's the reality for many of our parents, and it's the reality for many of our staff who are trying to do the engagement work of our students through remote learning. And so want to acknowledge the challenge that it is to simultaneously care for children and to try to be working from home. All of this has been far from ideal, but I think our school communities have continued to do their best to create opportunities of care and of connection for our students during this period of time and to continue to engage them despite the challenges. I also want to acknowledge and thank that we do have some staff currently in person still serving students who have special education needs that are such that remote learning wasn't possible for them. And to our staff who have volunteered or were in the virtual school through the transfer process, who have throughout the year really tried to adapt their practice in terms of engagement through Ddsb at home. So while we share the disappointment most definitely of not being able to return to in-person learning, I do want to acknowledge that in March and April in the Durham District School Board, we did see a very different reality in our schools from any other months prior to in terms of pandemic management. And we had started the year, I think, with the foresight of this board who, prior to any conversation at the provincial level, mandated the 1 meter distancing between elementary students and supported pandemic staffing with $8.1 million from reserve funds that even with all of those safety measures and the greater flexibility that virtual schooling provided us in terms of smaller class sizes in person, in March and April, we definitely saw a rapid escalation of the number of cases and outbreaks within our school. And you may recall at that point, we began to do trustee updates on that topic because we saw that with the variants introduced within the community, that there was more rapid spread, most definitely. So we recognize the disappointment of not being able to return to in-person learning, but we also acknowledge where we were prior to the school closure. The vaccination program has been rolling out. Provincially, 43% of educators have received their first vaccination. We suspect the number is probably a little bit higher, but because people can go in from different categories, so some will gain access through age versus school staff, but the records demonstrate that it's 43% have received their first vaccination. Of note is that there is conversation occurring in terms of the new Delta variant and that one vaccination is not as effective as it has been in terms of other variants thus far. And so there is caution that the second vaccination is very important in terms of trying to prevent a fourth wave dominated by the Delta variant. In terms of our students, you may recall we're very pleased that it was opened up in terms of a vaccination plan for students 12 to 17. Right now in the Durham region, we have approximately 5% of our students have accessed their first vaccination. That is lower than the provincial average, which is sitting at approximately 34%. But we do know that over the course of the next 2 weeks, that vaccinations are going to increase for that age group. So we're very optimistic that by early July, that our youth will have, the vast majority of our youth will have had access to that first vaccination. We are then very optimistic in terms of what the summer will look like in terms of second vaccinations, both for education staff and for students. The government has identified a prioritization for both those groups. But at this point, it was within this context that we made the decision in terms of what the end of school year celebrations would look like. And we know that volunteer staff, as well as SCCs, have been working diligently and collaboratively in terms of some planning of what the end of year graduation will look like in school communities. At each step of the way, we have been working with Durham Region Health Department in terms of seeking their best advice of protecting the safety of our students. And so with all of that in mind, we are going to move forward with the plans that have been put in place since February, which would be a virtual graduation for students, but that there would be an opportunity for some in-person acknowledgement of those students who are graduating. But we won't be gathering large groups of students together, but rather an individualized approach similar to what some schools did last year. And so all along, schools have been asking about whether or not they could do something in person from a more individualized approach. And so we do have permission now to move forward with that supplementary plan. So in addition to the virtual graduations, schools will have the opportunity where it's feasible to move forward with that. There's strict protocols in terms of the health guidance. And so we will be continuing to work with Durham Region Health Department as we roll that out and monitor, of course, to see if there are any changes. We know that right now in the Peel area, as an example, they have talked about concern around a fourth wave. And we know that when Peel has been impacted, we were behind them, but we definitely experience then a ripple effect in terms of the expansion of the growth of COVID within the community. I want to take this opportunity to acknowledge how we realize this is a significant milestone for our students and the disappointment that many will be feeling. It's been a very tough year and a half for students, and we feel, and for their families, and we recognize that there is a sense of disappointment in terms of not being able to go to a more regular graduation ceremony. And I say that, to be honest with you, as a parent who experienced a virtual graduation, that I recognize it's not the same as the in-person. But what I do know is our educators will do everything they can to make the end of year as special as possible for students, especially those who are leaving and graduating from the system or from the school. And that in terms of the end of year in all of our classes, that teachers will continue to focus on making it special and acknowledging all that students have accomplished this year, despite the challenges. So we very much appreciate that they will focus on that as we close off into the summer. I wanted to let you know that we are moving forward in terms of very actively planning for a safe return in September. We are very pleased due to some of the advocacy that trustees certainly undertook, as well as others, that more funding was provided in terms of a September reopening. And for that reason, we will be sending out information to families the first week of August in terms of more specific planning of what the school year will look like, and final registration in terms of either the virtual school or in person. And do want to say that since our last meeting, staff have met with the Ministry of Education to once again advocate for a return of the semester system. If education workers will have 2 vaccinations and the plan is for 12 to 17-year-olds to also have those vaccinations, we would really like to see the regular semester returned. They've indicated to us that they will let us know in the summertime, but did want to let you know that we did pursue an individual meeting with them on that topic. The only other thing I wanted to flag for trustees at this stage in terms of next year and planning and ministry updates is that, as you know, one of our key equity strategies is going to be the D-string mathematics curriculum, and we still have not yet received that from the Ministry of Education. So we're starting to feel concerned in terms of our implementation plans, and in particular the facilitation of PD. The change to D-string mathematics is a significant one. Having led that in another district previously, I can attest to the importance of being able to work as educators in collaborative networks to implement it smoothly. So we have been asking the Ministry of Education. They have advised us for many weeks that it's ready. So we're really at a loss as to why it hasn't been released yet, but starting to get concerned with less than 3 weeks left of the school year. So that concludes the update I have in terms of the Ministry of Communications and COVID-related planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Marsh. Going to go to Trustee Lundquist and then Trustee Morton. Go ahead, Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. So I'm sorry because I have multiple questions, so I'm going to try to condense them. You gave some information that's helpful But clearly parents are feeling some degree of angst about what next year looks like. And I know that we are advocating, as you indicated, for a change from the quadmester into the semester. But I just want to confirm, so that I'm not giving out wrong information, that the quadmester as it stands is something that is being mandated by the Ministry of Education. Am I wrong about that?
So the Ministry of Education directed us, all school boards, to go octmester, one course all day long, or maximum 2 courses per day. They will make an exception where you could potentially take 2 courses per day for a week, and then flip on the other week where you take 2 different courses. In our conversations in terms of the disjointed of the learning, and there are pros and cons to every model. So, I think some boards might choose to go that week on, week off in terms of courses, which they also did this year. We thought that if we have to go with not a semester, to remain consistent to the structure that we adopted this year, rather than switching where you go a week without the course and then back to the course the week later, just thinking from the sense of losing momentum within the course was the thinking in terms of that. We've also, the ministry identified that if they don't announce it in August in terms of the possibility for a return to semestered system, we have asked then for them to consider it for February. So trying to split the year as well, but we have been advocating, we would really like to return to it in September.
May I ask a supplemental, please, Madam Chair?
Go ahead.
Thank you. That was very helpful because it took away 3 of my 5 questions because of its thoroughness. So one of the other things that I'm getting a lot of questions about is why the decision to stay with 10 to 4 and what that's going to look like for high school students, particularly at lunchtime and breaks and whatnot. People, I think, are a little bit worried about their children sitting in one spot for multiple hours a day and the challenge that that's going to be for some of their kids. And I know that we've discussed it before, but in light of the number of calls I've had about it this week, I just would like to have more information out there, again, so that I can reference this conversation and direct people to some of the answers that you've provided.
Thank you. So we didn't finalize the schedule when we talked, when we sent the previous communication out to families, from the point of view of what the periods will look like and what the breaks will look like, because we are still waiting and hoping for that semestered system in August. Initially, we really could not comprehend why the Ministry of Education would limit us to 2 courses, because the sense that we were somehow cohorting with 2 courses we felt was misleading. Once you introduce a full day in person, it means students have a lunch hour, and it means you're not maintaining any kind of cohorting from a contact tracing perspective. What they indicated to us when we had the individual conversation with them was that they're not anticipating that we are cohorting for those 2 courses, but rather that it's, if we have to go back to 1 course in person and the afternoon at home for the 2nd course, that not having the semestered system would allow us to do that more easily. So with that response, our anticipation would be that students would then get a break between their 2 classes in the morning, but they would return to the same class. And that there would be a regular lunchtime, 60-minute approximate lunch for students to get out and then and walk about and do what it is that students do at lunch, hopefully eat as part of it. And then they would return for the afternoon. And just a reminder that because of the way that the collective agreement is, the last period would be the study hall, where it would be asynchronous work assigned from the first 75 minutes of that afternoon class, but there would be a teacher there to assist students with the seat work that they were doing. We recognized the 10 to 4 was not something that we embraced. It was actually something that was operationally required. With the shortage of bus drivers, we did not have the flexibility of moving the day earlier. It obviously presented a number of concerns which we articulated to DSTS. And we have indicated that while we'll collect data, because we know that there's some research that does actually show from an engagement perspective, it's a healthier schedule for students from that perspective. We were concerned about the whole picture of the other things that students do and recognized that it would impact their engagement in potentially other activities. So we will collect feedback from families through the year, but what we have said to DSTS is our expectation is this is a one, like after next year, we would revert back to more regular hours. And I'm not sure if Associate Director Wright wants to add anything in terms of the busing situation.
Thanks very much, Director Marsh. I think you've covered it all very nicely. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm not sure if I've answered all your questions there, Trustee Lundquist, or if I missed one.
No, that was exceedingly helpful and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Trustee Morton, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm a little bit concerned with the fact that only 43% of our staff have received the first vaccination. I would have expected that percentage to be greater. So I'm really curious to know, how do we collect that data?
So I just want to be clear, it's 43% of educators province-wide, not Durham related. Don't forget, our staff don't necessarily reside in Durham, so they may have received vaccinations in different municipalities. So Durham can't provide that information to us. When they report out on it provincially, what they've indicated is that they may be school staff who are accessing the vaccination, but aren't checking off that they're doing it as school staff. They're checking it off because they're taking the AstraZeneca when they could. So there's all sorts of different categories that staff may be accessing it. So at a minimum, it's 43% provincially, but we don't have any other details in terms of how many other educators at this point have that vaccination.
Thank you. Supplementary to that, when we go back the first week of September, are we going to know how many of our staff are fully vaccinated?
We have asked the Ministry of Education whether or not there will be any direction pertaining to vaccinations, both of students and staff. At this stage, we are not aware that we are going to be directed to collect that data, but that may change over the course of the summer. We don't know.
Thank you, Director Marsh.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. I do have a couple of comments around the school situation. The fact that educators, stakeholders, including OPSPA and public health officials advise that our kids are returned to school. There's a great deal of concern expressed by the Ontario Science Table around the gaps in education and how we expect to be able to deal with those in the year ahead. The Ontario Science Table also warns of potential long-term effects from the school closures. In this province, we have had the longest school closures of any province in the country. The negative effects are not only academic for our kids, but also their physical and mental health is affected as well. So just a comment there, Director Marsh.
Thank you. If I may, one of the things we've been talking a lot about is what September will look like, given the circumstances of what our students have experienced. And so you may recall this year we really focused on the well-being, and we talked about the first 20 days of well-being. And then we translated that into a more comprehensive plan. So we are looking at, in terms of specialized staff to support students upon the return in September. We also know that we're going to have to take a really solid look at the curriculum. There's a lot of specific expectations in that curriculum that aren't necessarily linked to big ideas. And so I think a focus on the big ideas, in addition to the culture of care and well-being, where we say to educators who are always very concerned about the curriculum that it's not going to be possible we need to let go of many of those specific expectations and focus on the key big ideas and really work in an asset-based way with our students. What we don't want our students feeling is anxious that they've somehow, that there's a deficit in terms of where they're at. So really meet our students where they are and then work to close the gaps on the most important curriculum expectations, and be very clear that a lot of those specific expectations we won't get to in terms of the work. The most important work, though, is that for our students to feel that they're returning to a school that's joyful, where there's a wonder of the learning and not feeling pressured about meeting curriculum standards, but rather really inviting them to discover their own learning and meeting those expectations through the joy of learning.
Thank you, Director Marsh. And call on Trustee Edwards. Go ahead, Trustee Edwards.
I'm just wondering, as we plan for next year, I know there's a lot of what ifs, but have we seen an uptake right now for summer school or for sort of a fifth, what was called the fifth year or the fifth semester at this point in time?
Thank you. So there's a lot of people on the team who are organizing these summer learning opportunities, and we're very excited about them. And so I'm going to start, I think I'm going to start with Superintendent McNally, if that's okay, and then go from there. And perhaps Superintendent Nevels and Superintendent Negro will jump in, and perhaps even Superintendent Hamid. We really have had a collaborative team looking at this from different aspects. So let's start there, and then we'll ask people to build upon previous messages. Thanks.
Thank you. So through you, Chair, and I think Director Marsh, you've really highlighted that it is a full team collaborative effort, putting programming in place for this summer as we look to meet our students' learning needs. And carry through that focus of well-being and the joy of learning. So I will draw on my colleagues as we're looking at elementary program launches and secondary program launches, and really embedding right through that social emotional learning, well-being messages, as well as special education supports. So together with, for example, the Durham continuing education team, the summer learning experience for students in secondary will again include CERT and educational assistance support and the virtual learning hub. We've had great feedback from partners such as the Learning Disabilities Association of Durham Region in terms of kids accessing that virtual hub when it doesn't have the stigma of walking down a hall and back. And that launched through summer learning last year. So something that we're embedding this year and growing again into the 21-22 school year. And the enrollment numbers have us increasing those staff slightly from last year as we look to that, as well as really fostering in some really core transition supports into next year. But with that, I would turn it over to colleagues. And just as they click on cameras and mics, one additional note is that trustees will be receiving in your June package an invitation to some parent caregiver sessions that as students come into summer learning experiences, we're turning an eye to our parents and caregivers as well. And we have a mental health and well-being series running in partnership with the Durham Catholic District School Board as well. And you'll be receiving those flyers in your June package. But excited as we look at supporting whole family, because we know that healthy kids means supporting healthy families and supports that way too. So with that, I would turn, I see that both Superintendent Negro and Nevels have their cameras on, and really their teams are driving the academic programs.
I'll weigh in quickly in terms of secondary summer school. So last year, for all of July and August, we had about 5,700 credit-bearing courses in total. My data is a couple weeks old, but as of a couple of weeks ago, we had about 4,500. So it's a little bit higher than it would normally be, but there's lots of reasons that could be in terms of access as well, because we're going fully virtual again this summer.
And through you, Madam Chair, on the elementary side, we have set up some summer learning camps. We're trying to make it fun for the kids as well as educational. So we put out word through the principals of this opportunity that's available in the first 2 weeks of July. And we asked our principals to contact families of children who could benefit the most from these literacy and numeracy camps. And so initial response is around 700 for elementary literacy, and we're still not at the 100 level for numeracy. But we're continuing our ask of parents and really trying to sell it as something that is going to be enjoyable for kids and engaging. But we're gonna teach them some math and literacy as well.
Thank you. Superintendent Hamid?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. So we continue to be able to offer and respond to the demand of the community, our Indigenous focused summer learning program, along with our English as our English language learner summer learning program. And in fact, due to the demand that we've had for that program, it's as usual, very well subscribed. We've been able to get 2 additional classrooms to support English language learners. And we are going to be partnering as well with 100 Strong to look at a continuation of the 100 Strong program for Black males as well for the summer. So we have a full slate of learning, dynamic and engaging. As Jack said, fun, but definitely with key learning expectations embedded in that as well.
And then in terms of your question around the 5th year students, I know Superintendent Neville's and team have been working through right now with secondary schools, sorting through those registrations of students with who would be in their 5th year, determining whether or not they are indeed planning on returning. So Superintendent Neville's, I'm not sure if you have any more detail in terms of a number at this stage, or if you're still working through raw numbers and would be misleading.
Yeah, not at this time. We've just reached out this week to collect some data on that, so we'll have to report back at a later date.
Superintendent Elmhurst, I saw you drop in for a moment. Did you want to speak?
No, thank you so much. Superintendent Hamid has covered all of the information I was going to share, so we're good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. I see no further comments. Oh, I do, actually. Trustee Barnes, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I sort of popped in there late. I just wanted to clarify, with the elementary and secondary programs, are we doing reach aheads this year or just supports? Because we talked about credit courses in secondary, but I'm wondering about our grade 8s, where they fall in there.
So we do offer reach ahead credits within the ministry guidelines. So it's very clear in the guidelines that parents need to put in a request, and it's for extenuating circumstances only. So it's a process where a parent would approach an elementary principal, that principal in conversation with the secondary principal would make decisions on those courses. For the most part, we offer the grade 10 civics and careers course for any grade 8 student looking to do a reach ahead. And the reason we do that is that it's an open level course. It's a good half credit as well, so it's not as intensive, but also it has less impact on the secondary school course offerings because we have a lot of students, even in the summer of their grade 9 year, will also take that civics and careers course. So we still offer some reach aheads in the summer.
Thank you, Superintendent Neville.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. I was just wondering around that because we're talking about closing gaps and that sort of stuff for grade 8s, but we also had some grade 8s that did well. So I'm just wondering what we were offering. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I see no further comments or questions. So I'm going to move on to information item number 10. And before we ask our student trustees for their report tonight, I would just like to ask trustees if there is no objection to my calling on Trustee Lundquist, who I know was in attendance at the recent Student Senate. So Trustee Lundquist, would you have a few comments to present to us tonight?
Sure, I certainly don't have any prepared remarks, but I will say that you couldn't attend that open house and not be terribly impressed by the substance and quality of the students that were participating. It was an hour-and-a-half presentation by many members of Student Senate, including our student trustees. And it was really, really truly inspiring to see the amount of activism, effort, and energy that was going into making education responsive to their needs. And it really was a pleasure. I know that there were other trustees there as well. And I was very fortunate to be asked to provide some closing remarks on behalf of the Board of Trustees, and I did so. We are in really good future hands, and that's something else in light of the year that they have had. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say thank you to those students who have worked so tirelessly to really improve the lives for other students and improve the quality of education in their schools. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Trustee Morton, I know that you had some opening remarks that you made as well. Did you have anything to add?
Thank you. I just would reiterate everything that Trustee Lundquist has said. I could only attend for the first half hour, but I found it an amazing experience. And yes, we are in good hands with our student trustees and our student senate. So I also want to thank them. Well done.
Thank you, Trustee Morton. And we'll call on our student trustees, Aaliyah, Logan, and Arpita, to present their report tonight. Which one of you is going first tonight?
I'll be starting us off. Thank you.
Aaliyah.
Through you, Chair. So as our year is coming to an end, our Student Senate is tying up loose ends with final initiatives for the year. Just last week, actually, the Ddsb in-person thought exchange was completed, and our Senate at our last celebration meeting will be discussing the results of this thought exchange that has just been finished. And I know as a student trustees and on the Student Senate, we're interacting with it as well. For the previous thought exchange, we had the opportunity at our last Senate meeting to kind of discuss the results, particularly relating to the questions about Student Senate. And with that information and kind of what we saw, we aim to, for the next year and with the incoming student trustees, make sure that we're giving students the most exposure and in the best way possible to the Student Senate and what we do. We also have a very exciting collaboration coming up with Ddsb, the Durham Catholic District School Board, and we're planning a crossover Spirit Week for the week of June 21st to the 25th, where we'll be having a number of activities for both boards and their students to participate in, and we're very much looking forward to that. This last month as well, we also had the opportunity to create an equity video for the Parents as Partners Symposium. Our student trustees and our senators worked hard to put this video together. I'm going to pass it over to Logan to share that video with everyone here today.
Hi, my name is Alia Jalil. I'm the student trustee for Pickering and Ajax, and my focus is on the Student Voice Working Group.
Hi, my name is Logan Keeler. I'm the student trustee for the North, and my focus is on the Well-Being Working Group.
Hi, my name is Arpita Savalia. I'm the student trustee for Oshawa and Whitby, and my focus is on the Equity Working Group. We've had the opportunity to engage in a number of equity-based initiatives, and we'd like to share a few of them.
This year, to make us three student trustees more available, we have expanded our social media presence. We rebranded our Instagram and made our username at Ddsb Student Senate so it's easier to find. When we attend or host events, we try to state our Instagram handles so people can reach us if they have any concerns. Another way we have made ourselves easier to reach is by making a combined email to contact us. The email is ddsbstudenttrustees@ddsb.ca.
Student Senate provides opportunities for all senators to take on leadership positions and have the unique experience of working in a team. Our student trustees empower us to step outside of our comfort zones and take on new opportunities.
We recognize that each high school has different resources that are most practical and applicable to their students and demographic based on where they're located and their specific school's needs. With that, our Student Voice Working Group has curated a list of documents and resources they would like to be included in each of their respected schools. and intend to speak with their webmasters to make sure that those resources are accessible to their students and included on the website for the next school year. There are countless facets for collecting student voice, and this year we decided to collaborate on the thought exchanges that have gone out and are to go out. One already for the DDSB at home, and one to come for the brick and mortar schools. These platforms not only gauge how students and families feel about the current learning environments, but we've also had the chance to integrate questions regarding Student Senate to expand our outreach and have more families and students involved in the work we do.
Since the Student Senate is only for high school students, elementary students' voices often get overlooked when we talk about issues. This year we have made it one of our goals to increase elementary involvement with the Senate. To do this, we held an elementary leadership conference. 2 students from each elementary school in the DDSB got a chance to attend the event. The event had guest speakers and workshops where the students got to work out problems with each other. The event received lots of positive feedback, and we received a lot of interesting questions and ideas from the students that we will use moving forward.
Together, we work towards removing barriers to education. Through our engagement with students across the region, we learned that students were struggling to focus on their classes because of food insecurity. We highlighted this concern through our monthly report, and this allowed for an immediate response. Additionally, students have been at the core for the advocacy behind making menstruation products free at DDSB high schools. This includes the work of past student senates, the efforts of student trustee reports, and the presentation given by Brianna and Krissa.
Hello, my name is Simone. Here in the DDSB exists the Equity and Diversity Ad Hoc Committee, where I have the privilege of filling the position of student representative. The committee is a collective of DDSB representatives from various roles in the organization. We take a deeper look at how we can better the Black student experience through different initiatives. The Compendium of Action for Black Student Success is a 3-year plan that has a collection of initiatives that demonstrate our commitment in supporting the success of Black students across the DDSB. Through the community voice forums, collected data, and recommendations, the purpose of the compendium is to lay out a specific plan we have devised to remove barriers and ultimately improve the success of Black students in our community.
Equitable education has always been at the forefront of all our students' minds. While we have the honor of being the faces of students and senators, we have recognized and are grateful for the efforts they put in not only to run these initiatives, but to uplift one another.
We are constantly learning from the passion of our students in maintaining equitable practices in and out of educational environments. We look forward to seeing the growth of equity in years to come.
Thank you for your continuous dedication to amplifying the voices, well-being, and equity of our student body at the Durham District School Board. Let's continue to ignite learning in everything that we do. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Aaliyah, Logan, and Arpita.
We have some more.
All right. Are you up next, Logan?
Yes, I will be. From May 27th to May 30th, Alia, Arpita, Demario, James, Kayla, and I got to attend OSTA's annual general meeting. During this meeting, Alia, Arpita, and I learned about life after being a student trustee, with they involved, and how to use skills we've learned moving forward. The incoming student trustees, Demario, James, and Kayla, got a chance to meet incoming student trustees from other boards and receive some professional development. OSTA just released its 2nd volume of the Volume of Our Voices. This volume is titled Negative Spaces and dives into how race, ethnicity, nationality, and/or culture identity affects individuals' school experience. We'd also like to thank and congratulate Habiba, our Student Senate Social Studies Lesson Plan Project Coordinator, for completing the lesson plan. The goal of the plan is to inform grade 5 and 6 students on parts of the Student Senate and the role of being student trustee. If anyone would like to see the lesson plan, send us an email and we can send it to you.
Thank you, Logan. On Thursday, May 20th, we had the opportunity to host the 2nd Elementary Leadership Conference led by Michaela. We were excited to have over 140 elementary students join us throughout the day. Students had the opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with student senators and ask questions about leadership or high school. Additionally, students were challenged to organize a potential movie night in different logistical teams. On Tuesday, May 25th, we had the honor of hosting a virtual Student Senate open house, which garnered engagement from students, parents, and staff members, allowing attendees to ask questions to the Student Senate panelists about their journeys. Both events received positive feedback and demonstrated that the DDSB's elementary and secondary students are excited to become further involved in their community and express their appreciation for the leadership opportunities that the Senate has provided this year. We'd like to take a moment to thank all the people involved in making these events possible. Firstly, the staff advisors who are constantly connecting us with the correct people in our board, our project coordinators, Michaela and Ananya, and our senators who volunteered their time for the events. Lastly, we'd like to thank our senior staff members and trustees for their support. We thank each and every one of you for empowering us with the opportunity to leverage student leadership.
Wondering, trustees, if there are any further comments or questions?
I do have one more thing to add, sorry.
Sorry, Leah, I didn't realize. Go ahead.
No worries at all. We just got one more thing to add.
Take all the time you need.
And then a final video. Thank you so much. And so thank you, Arpita. And I just want to conclude again by saying that, every moment of being a student trustee is one to remember. And in a year full of uncertainty, Logan, Arpita, and I were able to find comfort in one another and our teams every step of the way. Thank you to all of you for your unconditional support and allowing us to extend beyond the potential we thought we had, making memories and creating new initiatives that will last beyond our term as student trustees. Logan and I also wanted to give a very special shout out to Arpita for always doing so much, not just for us, but for OSTA, for our Senate, because Arpita always steps outside of everyone's comfort zone and does so much and pushes and always picks up our slack. So thank you, Arpita, for that as well. To conclude, we had put together a video for our Senate year in review, and we also wanted to share that with all of you as well. I'm just going to pass it over to Logan again to share that. Thank you.
Hi, this is the 2020-2021 Student Senate, and here's our year in review.
Hi, I'm Mayank, and I'm a student senator.
Hi, my name is Kashaf Awan, and I'm a student senator and a working group co-chair this year.
Hi, I'm Yassine Khan, and I'm a student senator.
Hi, I'm Habiba, and I am a student senator.
Hi, I'm Kawan, and I'm a student.
Hi.
This year, the Wellbeing Working Group has come together to provide helplines and tips to students to improve their overall well-being. Whether this means the importance of drinking water, the importance of sleep, and much more things that pertain towards student health.
The Student Voice Working Group has been working on initiatives to simplify the success and struggles of our students. We have developed a document of resources for our senators to return to their respective schools and increase accessibility. We have also included questions within the Ddsb thought exchange to gauge the relationship between students in their understanding of Student Senate.
Hi everyone, my name is Ishana Papatia and my name is Rihanna Papatia, and we are part of the Equity Working Group. Our main goal is to create an equitable learning environment for all students by ensuring they have the proper support resources with the goal of making everyone successful, especially during these unprecedented times. We have faced some challenges, however, we were still able to come up with initiatives to fulfill our end goal. To begin, we created posters that highlight commonly used vocabulary that can be misinterpreted. We feature the definition, significance, and history of each word to help educate students on the appropriate words to use in order to ensure that everyone is treated with respect. We also supported Austin Waco's Volume Over Voice project. In addition, we were able to discuss the current challenges of online learning that were expressed to us by students across the DDSB, and we were then able to bring this information back to the board. By bringing it back to the board, we can discuss and deliberate potential solutions and improvements to make the online learning experience more enjoyable to all students. A video has also been made available for families to learn more about different initiatives that the Student Senate have put in place
to ultimately create an equitable school environment for all students.
In Senate, we also break into our regions, East, West, and North. Here, we work on building interschool relations through collaborative initiatives and focus on region-based advocacy projects. We're featuring some of our school's highlights.
Hi there, my name is Michaela Marshall, and I'm the project coordinator for the Elementary Leadership Conference. When I was first elected for the position, there were so many ideas as to the direction we could take the conference. We've never run an event quite like this before on Senate, so it was a lot of fun coming up with the ideas and plans, so we had a completely blank slate to work with. We ran 2 conferences this year, one in February and one in May. Both were meant to focus on student voice and leadership, and what that means to the students themselves. We had interactive activities, in-depth discussions, and we were fortunate to have some amazing guest speakers come in and share their knowledge and provide some inspiration. There was also an amazing team of hardworking senators and advisors helping out with the conference, and none of it would be possible without them. I thoroughly enjoyed organizing and running this event, and I'd like to thank everyone who dedicated their time and effort to it. I'd also like to thank everyone who attended as well. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Habiba Shafi, and I am the project coordinator for the Student Senate Social Studies lesson plan. As grade 5 and 6 students start to learn about levels of government, we introduce this lesson to teach them about Student Senate, its structure, its roles, and the way student voice is empowered at Ddsb. The goal of this is not only to inspire students to become involved in student leadership, but also to give them the confidence to voice their opinions, ideas, and concerns, enhancing their educational experiences.
Hey guys, I'm Ananya Mehta, the Open House Project Coordinator for the Ddsb Student Senate. And this year, I've gotten the opportunity to plan and facilitate an evening for parents, students, staff, and community members to come and learn about the impact that their student senators and student trustees are creating. Not only will you have the chance to interact with the senators, you can also learn about the various leadership opportunities in the Ddsb and how you can get involved. We will also be showcasing the unique leadership journeys of all of our student leaders. We have a packed evening, from meeting your student trustees both incoming and outgoing, to having a student leaders panel where we will be answering all of your questions. There on Tuesday, May 25th at 5:30 p.m.
And DCDSB set game.
Here, so many amazing ideas.
Knowing when to add your own ideas to the group or to let others contribute and have their time.
Senate allowed me to bring more innovative ideas to my student council.
By giving me a platform where I can present initiatives I am passionate about, this has allowed me to step out of my comfort zone and gain confidence as a leader. It's given me the opportunity to meet and work with some incredible students from all across the board.
It allowed students from across the board to share their experiences in the education system.
Student Senate has expanded my sense of community as it showcases that a lot of initiatives can be done more efficiently and quicker with the help of other students across Ddsb.
I'm going to go to Trustee Forbes and then Trustee Edwards. Go ahead, Trustee Forbes.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Arpita, Leah, and Logan. I just wanted to say thank you for, and to Michaela, who was involved with that elementary, engaging the elementary student voice. I know that's been long desired, and so thank you for really picking up that mantle and also kind of lighting a way for our future students to know that there is a way for them to get involved, to develop that sense of community, and to really have agency about, using their voice and affecting change. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Trustee Forbes. Go ahead, Trustee Edwards.
Thank you, and I kind of
reiterate some of what Trustee Forbes says of the great work that you do and the initiatives that you take. And just on that note, because there are so many great initiatives that you had started this year or really made come to fruition, and that was the Elementary Leadership Conference was one of them. I'm just wondering, what do you do as Student Senate to ensure that some of these initiatives, great initiatives, that they continue on after, your legacy, you've left the Durham District School Board? What do you do as a Student Senate to ensure these initiatives continue on?
Arpita, go ahead.
Thank you. And we'd say that while we are transitioning the incoming student trustees, we'd definitely just pass on what's worked for us and what hasn't. But with the elementary engagement in specific, I know Alia, Logan, and I have been working on an elementary engagement plan that sort of talks through what the initial purpose of all of our initiatives were and how they have moved forward and the impact they've created. And through the graphics and through everything that's been presented and created in that little plan, we hope the Senate that comes in next year and the future years can take that and use it in different formats based on what they see successful from what our results were.
Anyone want to add to that?
I think Peter covered it quite well, but just to add on to that, all three of our incomings are currently actually on Student Senate, and some of them have personally been engaged in these initiatives and the planning stages of it. So that definitely helps. So they've got a little bit of background in it. And at the end of the day, it's up to them how much they want to, mirror what we've done, how much they want to carry through. But they also do know that we'll always be here for guidance as well if they need anything, if they need help with anything going forward.
Thank you for that. And you asked about the social studies lesson plan. I'd be interested in seeing it myself. I just, our grade 5 students will know what student centers do, but many people out there don't know what school board trustees do, but that's a good starting point.
So I'm seeing no further questions or comments. Just like to thank student trustees Aaliyah, Logan, and Arpita. Moving on then to item 10B on your agenda. And I'm going to call on Superintendent Aaron Elmhurst and Superintendent Mohammed Hamid to present information around the draft Indigenous education policy.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Thatcher, the report can be found on pages 4 to 27 in your package. As a conduit for Indigenous student parent, community, and scholar voice who works in service of Indigenous students and families, I'm honored to share with the Board of Trustees a draft updated Indigenous education policy and 2 accompanying procedures. The current policy, entitled Aboriginal Education Policy, and the accompanying regulation was last updated on March 17th, 2014. The Voluntary Confidential First Nation, Métis, and Inuit Student Identification Policy and Procedure was last updated on January 15th, 2014. The draft Indigenous Education Policy and subsequent procedures are intended to consolidate and update both the Aboriginal Education Policy and the Voluntary Confidential First Nation, Métis, and Inuit Self-Identification Policy. The previous policies and procedures have been included within your package, with all text being struck out due to the vast growth and development within Indigenous education over the past 6 years. The updated policy has been guided by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada Calls to Action, the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, the Durham District School Board Indigenous Advisory Circle, Indigenous community members, and Indigenous policy specialists, Nancy Rowe and Kylie Fox-Peltier. We recognize the importance of having Indigenous peoples guiding the work of Indigenous education and honor the right of self-determination with respect to the Indigenous education policy development. We are grateful for their engagement and ongoing support. The draft policy focuses on centering Indigenous inherent rights, furthering the Ddsb systemic commitment to reconciliation, preventing anti-Indigenous racism, and addressing the disproportionate outcomes experienced by Indigenous youth. The Indigenous education procedure, which informs classroom practice, is intended to guide curriculum development and delivery to include true histories, contemporary realities, and it upholds Indigenous inherent rights and human rights. The First Nation Métis Inuit students' self-identification procedure is intended to outline the process for parents and guardians of Indigenous students to voluntarily and confidentially self-identify as having First Nation, Métis, and Inuit ancestry. And it guides the analysis of Indigenous student achievement data to identify, address, and eliminate anti-Indigenous racism and discrimination, and develop and implement programs and strategies that increase Indigenous student well-being and achievement. This report has been provided to trustees for consideration, and Superintendent Hamid and myself welcome questions at this time.
So are there any questions or comments for Superintendent Elmhurst and Hamid? I wanted to say, Superintendent Elmhurst, that I was really pleased to hear you say how important it was for the Indigenous input into the the curriculum and so on, because I know that just maybe at this point one province who's in a little whose work is not just meeting the standards. So I guess my question is, do we have any information around timing for this curriculum development?
The Ministry of Education curriculum development?
Yes.
So currently the social studies curriculum has recently been updated to reflect accurate Indigenous histories and content. And the primary social studies curriculum has recently put out a call for writers. And so they'll be updating that as well. Indigenous community members have also been invited to be a part of those teams to guide the curriculum update process.
Okay, thank you so much. Trustee Lundquist.
Thank you, Chair Thatcher. I read this and I was surprised. I was surprised because I think it's actually quite bold. And I don't think that's a negative thing. I think it's a long time coming. I do think one of the things that we're all grappling with right now, and I mean, not all of us, we all have different knowledge and levels of experience and lived experience. It's been a tough time for people who haven't had to engage with history and an understanding of these ideas that you've so carefully embedded into this document, and I'm so super impressed by it. I did want to say that I think we all have a lot more learning to do, and I think this is a really great document to support that really important learning. So thank you for the work in it. I recently was speaking to a woman on the Ontario Indigenous Women. I'm going to get the name wrong, I really am, and I apologize for that. She is a remarkable librarian in Whitby. And I know that there are several seminars coming up over the course of the next month on these particular topics, and I think that it's really timely. It's a partnership between the public libraries and UOIT. It's not called that anymore. Ontario Tech, I think now, Durham College and others. And so, you know, I recognize that some people are going to be uncomfortable with language changes and new ideas and different perspectives being introduced vis-a-vis this policy. So I think it's a good opportunity to say there are resources out there for learning. So I'm personally going to participate in those seminars because I recognize that this is going to be a long journey, and we're going to talk about truth and reconciliation. It can't be just a land acknowledgement at the beginning of every board meeting. It has to be something more profound. And I thank you for the efforts that you put into this, because I see it as something far more profound. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Lundquist. Anything further for Trustee Elmhurst or Hamid? Seeing none. I'd like to thank you very much for your report and move on to item 11 and call on Trustee Barnes for the Equity and Diversity Ad Hoc Committee meeting report.
Thank you, Chair. The report is found on pages 28 to 32. If there are any questions or comments from trustees, I'll answer them. There is also the Black census, sorry, the student census that will be reported back to the Black community on June 10th, 6 to 8. So trustees can register for that. It's open to anyone that registers. Thank you.
Seeing no questions for Trustee Barnes, we do have 3 items of correspondence that are available for your enjoyment. And as I see no further business, I would like to ask if I could have a motion to adjourn this meeting. Thank you, Trustee Barrett. Good night, everyone.